Welcome to National Mustard Day. Did you remember the gift? Did you have it on your calendar? Did you give somebody a jar? We're going to spend this edition of Flavorphiles talking about condiments, about mustard, of course. We'll talk to the curator of the Mustard Museum. Yes, there actually is one. You could visit. He's a hoot, and we'll talk to him coming up. I'm Jerry Agar, broadcaster in Toronto, and my co-host here is also my son, Tanner Agar, who is a restaurateur, bartender, and chef in Dallas. And spices, therefore, and condiments, Tanner, are a big part of your life.
Oh, absolutely. You got to have spicy. It's in every chili. That's what makes chili chili. But
Yep.
there's all kinds of awesome condiments that I'm super excited to talk about today. Introduce you to some new flavors. Hopefully, something you can actually find in the grocery store that can spice up your life. But as always, we will start with our amuse bouche. Have you ever had a Gold Rush cocktail before?
I have not.
Okay, I'm sure you would love it. Have you ever heard of a bee's knees cocktail?
I have heard of it, but I think it has honey in it.
Right. A bee's knees is a gin and honey cocktail. And like many cocktails, they're just the same thing where you make one ingredient swap and it magically becomes a new cocktail. So a bee's knees cocktail is gin, honey, and some lemon. If you swap the gin for bourbon or another type of whiskey, you get a gold rush. So it's a really great cocktail, sort of a sour that's got a little bit of the honey in. What we've done is we've taken a hot honey. So hot honey is a super popular condiment now. You see it on pizza all the time. It's kind of taking over everywhere. It's just spicy honey. And so I've used the spicy honey with the lemon, with the bourbon. So you get this beautiful golden cocktail with a little bit of heat, a little bit of sweet, and then that wonderful bourbon flavor on the bottom. So cheers.
Cheers to you. You're the one with the drink. But yeah, it looks great. Let's talk about here, Tanner, the difference between the spices and condiments that make a difference in your life and in your cooking and the ones that just take up permanent residence in your refrigerator door.
Just to be clear, are you disappointed I didn't make a mustard martini? Is that what you were hoping that I was going to do today?
No, I thought it looked very good, and I'm not sure. I think I would order it based on what I see and what I hear from you. I don't think I actually want a mustard martini. Be
I don't
honest.
think a lot of people do. But
No.
anyway, moving on to your point, there's so many great condiments. And so, when I think about is this a great condiment? Do we want to talk about it to people? I'm thinking, okay, is there a flavor that you're going to get beyond just being spicy? Because if it's just spicy, we have an entire episode all about chili peppers. You can hear from the world record holder for eating ghost peppers. You can hear all of that on Spotify, iHeart, or Apple. But if we're going to talk about a condiment, it's not just about heat. It's about having a really good flavor and having a versatility to the flavor. Because again, just heat isn't really what the flavor is. You want to be able to use it. Hopefully, you want to be able to rescue the mediocre food that someone else made, and you can just put the condiment on there. That's why you keep it in the fridge, right? You get some takeaway and you realize it doesn't taste very good, and you can just dump a condiment on it that fixes everything.
Okay, but I know people who are all about hot sauce, but it's always the same bottle of hot sauce. I don't know if we talked about this on our hot sauce episode. I don't think we did. And they just happen to like that hot sauce. I think condiments and the things, the spices and things we're talking about today are supposed to augment the food.
Absolutely. You should be highlighting them. If you just cover it in something, it's the same thing. Garlic can be overwhelming, right? Any spice can be overwhelming. Cumin, for example. I like cumin, but when you go someplace and clearly their taco seasoning blend is just an aggressive use of cumin, it's just too much.
Yeah.
And a great condiment does have a balance to that. And lastly, you kind of already said, should you keep this in your fridge? Are you actually going to get to the bottom of this jar in your precious little fridge space, depending on how much you have? Should you dedicate some to this? So we're going to talk about some. I think you've had the first one, chili crisp. You've had this before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So chili crisp is very popular. If you haven't had it, it's generally going to be things like dried garlic, dried chilies, and you're going to have kind of oil. That's the base of it. But basically, the premise is it's going to be spicy and it's going to have a little crunchiness to it. So it's got fried onions, fried garlic, and you get a crisp in there. And this is an amazing condiment that I love on pretty much everything. You can sort of just toss it onto bread and butter, and it's just an amazing way to do something different with your bread and butter even.
You good with eggs?
Of course, it'd be great with eggs. Omelets, you make a really nice soft scrambled egg or a good French style omelet, and then you just drizzle this on the top and you can get some of that crunch, a little bit of that garlic, a little bit more savory style egg breakfast, but it would be delicious if you did it that way. Along with, it's sort of different, but there's something called salsa macha. This comes from Mexico, and sort of same thing. You're going to start by kind of frying up these aromatics, these chilies in oil, and then lots of times you're actually going to add peanuts. And I love it for that reason. Well, maybe I
Yeah.
don't like peanuts and eggs mixed together. For a lot of other applications, it would be really great, right? If you've made like some pulled pork or something in your crock pot, maybe you're going to make some carnitas or something. It's just a great condiment. And I love the way that the peanut comes in and gives you just a little bit of crunch. But then it also introduces its own flavor and kind of gives it this richness. So I love salsa macha. It's super easy to make, and you can find it in pretty much every Mexican grocery store I've ever been to.
I think you like horseradish. My father loved horseradish. I can't get down with that one.
What don't you like about horseradish?
I just don't like the way it tastes.
Okay, that's fair. Horseradish has a spice to it. It's great. Keeping prepared horseradish in the fridge is wonderful. A lot of people have them with raw oysters. We actually have a cocktail that we make out of it. So if you like Moscow mules, if you kind of like that spice that ginger has, you can have horseradish instead. So we throw it in a cocktail and we blend it all up. And so you get this cocktail that's got this spiciness to it. We will be talking a little bit more about horseradish in our next segment, because if you think you know wasabi, you might not, because most wasabi you buy is actually just green horseradish. But we'll get into that in our next segment. I do want to say, mustard. We got to talk about mustard. It's National Mustard Day, of course. What's your favorite mustard?
I kind of like a grainy yellow mustard.
Yeah, I love grainy, right? The stone ground where you can see the little mustard kernels where it's spicy and it's got texture. I think that's the absolute best on a sandwich, especially like pastrami style sandwich, Reuben style sandwich, where it's really got like a grip to it, I love a textured mustard. Dijon mustards are great. Of course, there's honey mustard if you want something sweeter. If I'm ever having like fried chicken, especially like chicken nuggets, that's my favorite, is honey mustard and chicken nuggets. It's so good.
Let's talk about pepper jelly or chili jam.
So again, kind of we're talking about like the hot honey, right? Where we made this cocktail. This is sort of the same thing. We have made this before. We used to make like a jalapeno bacon jam that we would do with a queso stuffed meatball. So we needed something spicy for how rich the rest of that dish was. Granted, it did also have a lot of sugar. So this wasn't the healthiest dish that we've ever served at my restaurant, but it was very popular and it sold really well. And I love little jams like this. Sometimes you can find them, or you can make them relatively easily. And I think they're great. You talked about eggs earlier. Slightly sweet and spicy is a great combination for breakfast. So cream cheese with a spicy jam on it on a bagel is just a fantastic way to start the morning. I think the chili kind of just gives you a little kick in the butt, helps you get get into the groove for the day.
When we did our whiskey episode, you ended it by talking about maybe a newer entry for a lot of people, which was Japanese whiskey. Should we be looking to Japan for condiments?
100%. Yuzu kosho is an amazing product that a bunch of people probably just said, what did he say? It's yuzu kosho. So this is citrus, where you're basically going to like peel the citrus and you're going to pack it with a bunch of salt and sort of chilies. And what's going to happen is the salt's going to break them down. They're going to ferment together, and you're going to get this paste, which is basically chilies and citrus peels together. Yuzu is a citrus. It's a yellow citrus, kind of like a lemon. And so it's the peels of that with green chilies. And this is just one of those condiments where a tiny little bit goes such a long way and can just absolutely pop. Goes amazing, obviously, with sushi. It goes great with meats, though. I actually like it with vanilla ice cream. You can kind of just mix a little into there, kind of sort of put it on, or keep a little tiny plate of it next to it. So you kind of dip your spoon back and forth, and you just get this powerful, intense, spiced citrus kind of flavor. And it's so good, especially with something like vanilla ice cream, which then kind of can cool down your palate after you eat something so spicy. Another option, of course, if you want to talk about condiments, giardiniera is a condiment I really like, which is not a sauce. Are you familiar with this? It's sort of like vegetables and peppers, and they're kind of all pickled together, and you pack them in a jar. It's popular on muffaletta sandwiches. It's a lot of sub places will have it as like an option they'll pack on your sandwich, because you'll have like peppers, cauliflower, all kinds of different things, carrots in there, and they're all sort of spicy and pickled together. And that's what I like about it, is it has a lot of flavors and it's perfect on a sandwich.
Okay, not only have I not heard of that, I'm looking at your list here and I can't even pronounce the rest of your list, much less know what it is.
Well, okay, but you've had some of these things. So, okay, gochujang. This is Korean chili paste. So it's fermented Korean chilies. It's a paste basically that you can use for lots of things. I like to use it if I have a recipe that says add tomato paste. I like to cut my tomato paste with gochujang paste. And I'm going to get this like rich fermented chili flavor that's going to incorporate really well. And the texture is so similar to tomato paste that it'll go well into whatever recipe you're doing. If you've ever had like Korean wing sauce, have you had like Korean fried chicken before and it's tossed in like a spicy red sauce? That's going to be the secret ingredient to Korean fried chicken, is the gochujang paste. That's what's going to make the sauce great. Another awesome sauce is zug. Zug, it's popular in Israel. It's popular in Yemen. It's a green chili sauce. And so it's like cilantro and lots of sort of some spices sort of blitzed together. What we used to do is we would take a feta cheese and we'd whip the feta cheese and then we would gently introduce zug afterwards. And so you got this like violently green, slightly green chili spice, but very herbal, tons of spice flavor to it. But then the cheese was nice and light and it was a perfect little dip. You make some pita or something and you can just have it as sort of a cheese and chili dip, it's a condiment that then is almost becoming the star of the dish. Not that feta is bad or pita is bad, but I think we've all had plenty. And it's a really great way to make something that's easy but incredibly flavorful because the condiment is so great. Harissa kind of does this too. Harissa, it's going to be red chilies. It's oftentimes used as a sauce, or when I was in Tunisia, they described it as Tunisian ketchup because people just put it on everything. You get something and you just throw that guy on. Sometimes it has rose petals even in it. So it gets this like slightly floral, slightly smoky red pepper kind of flavor that kind of goes on everything. And I feel like you could even put it on a hot dog. I know we're very anti-ketchup hot dogs on this show. And I'm sure when we get to the Mustard Museum, he will tell us specifically how much he hates it. But I feel like you could get away with harissa if you were looking for a good substitute.
It's National Mustard Day, and we're talking mustard, condiments generally. Coming up soon, we'll be talking to the curator of the National Mustard Museum. But Tanner, did you ever remember, you too young for, a show called The Nanny?
Yeah, of course. Fran Dresser.
Yes, that's how she talked. And there was an episode where she was in a restaurant and that's how she talked. And she said, "What is that?" And that's wasabi. And she took some wasabi as the woman said something about it clears out your nasal passages or something. And she fell off the stool. And then she gets up and sits on the stool and says, "Wow, that really worked." And it was right back to her normal voice momentarily. So tell us about wasabi.
So do you have any idea what wasabi actually is, or is it something you've just heard of?
Well, I've not only heard of it, I've had it, but I've had it in very small amounts.
Yeah, well, a lot of people do, right? I mean, it's famous for something that like briefly removes the top of your skull, right? It's just incredibly spicy. Although, I'll tell you a funny little wasabi story. My grandmother, we were out and we were having sushi, and she had had food I cooked before and would tell me it was good, and I appreciated that, right? It's nice to be told that you're good. So my grandmother is eating sushi and she is putting something on it. She's putting this thick green paste on it. And she says, "Man, I really like this stuff. Is this avocado?" I thought, okay, clearly, I don't think you're tasting my food anymore. I think you've gotten to, if you think wasabi and avocado taste the same, I appreciate you telling me my food's good, but I don't think I can believe you any longer.
Somewhere along the line, she burned out her taste buds, apparently.
Right. You know what? And when you live into your 90s, you have plenty of time to do it. I look forward to having burned out, having squeezed every bit of flavor out of my taste buds that I possibly can. But at that point, I think it'll be over for me. I think I'll be ready to go.
All right.
But on wasabi. So, okay, wasabi is a plant. And, it's very popular. If a lot of people have seen it, you get sushi and you think, why are we even doing this segment? I know what wasabi is. It's, that green paste that comes when I get sushi at the grocery store or when I go to a sushi restaurant. But here's what's funny about wasabi. Wasabi is a plant and it is spicy and it is very tasty. However, most of the wasabi that you are going to be exposed to is not. I sort of teased it in the first segment. It is horseradish that has been ground up, and maybe they've added some actual wasabi to it, but very likely they've just dyed it green and shipped it. So they're
Okay.
just sending you food colored horseradish and telling you that it's wasabi because most people can't tell the difference.
If I had it side by side, the sort of fake product you just described, and then on the next dish I had actual wasabi, how much of a difference am I going to determine as an average person? Not your grandma, and not me because I don't have a sophisticated palate, I admit. So
I think the difference is that when you have prepared horseradish, something that's been sitting around in a jar for a long time, kind of like anything, right? Why do people want a fresh grind pepper at a restaurant? Because the oils that are in it have a character which by the time something's been ground and preserved and shipped and stored and finally used, it's losing some of that character, right? And coming up at the end of the show, we actually have some fresh styles of peppers that you're going to be trying for the first time. So that'll be coming
yeah.
up next. But what's interesting about this is we're grinding this down. And when it's fresh, there's going to be just oils, volatile oils that have a smell, that have a taste that you're not going to get in something that's been packaged in a jar that can be shelf stable and sit around. So it's important to have it fresh when you can. Now, of course, this does ask the question, why do you not just use fresh all the time? And the real reason is because it's incredibly difficult and expensive to grow. Horseradish is much easier, but wasabi, if you look it up, like on YouTube while you're watching Flavorphiles, you can see it. You have to it's pretty hard to grow. You need to kind of get it wild, and it's very picky in terms of the environment that it wants. And so it makes it very expensive. It's almost a foraged product, and that makes it expensive as opposed to horseradish, which you can kind of just grow.
Okay, but like, do you actually dislike the kind of fake product that you talked about?
I don't dislike it. I eat it. I like horseradish. I know that you don't. So I like horseradish. So I'm happy to have that version of it and just sort of accept that that's what it is. But I'll tell you, when we go to an omakase restaurant, and you've been there,
Yeah,
probably the only time you've had real wasabi is at that omakase restaurant we went to,
and it was good.
where
I have to admit, I liked it.
it's really good. It has a
Yeah.
flavor that you're not capturing inside horseradish because it's not wasabi. And what they'll do, this is kind of the coolest thing. They take the whole root, they'll have the root, and then they have a little paddle. I forget the Japanese name for it, but it's actually covered in shark skin. And so you attach shark skin to a wooden paddle, and then you rub wasabi in a little circle. And that grates the wasabi because shark skin, it has very strong skin, but it has almost like little needles, almost little teeth that are on it. So you get them, all of them are pointed in the same direction so that the shark can swim efficiently, but it's tough and it's got these abrasions. So as you rub it in a circle, you're sort of grating the wasabi, and then you're coming down and you're pushing it out of the skin so that you can accumulate it. And you push up to sort of grate it and down to pull it back out again. And that process is not great for sharks. I don't think they appreciate that they've become the go-to source of wasabi grating. But that sort of circle, apparently, what it also does is it dissipates heat fairly well. So as opposed to if you're doing like a mechanical grating, which is what happens like with horseradish because they're doing it in big facilities, it's
Yeah.
heating it up. That heat is being transferred into the product. Then that heat is eliminating some of those volatile oils that you're trying to get. So shark skin, you can actually rub, but it's moving the heat itself as you're rubbing it. So that way you're able to get like this key flavor, because a lot of people say you have to have it fresh. You have to have it within the first 30 minutes that it's been ground, or it just doesn't taste the same at all. So if you go to a fancy sushi restaurant and you see them back there with a little paddle and a root, that's what they're doing all night long. So it can be premium fresh.
Okay, but let's talk about, before we move on, practical uses of wasabi beyond sushi.
Well, we're talking all about condiments. One could argue you could use it for everything, right? I mean, it's really tasty. It goes great with vegetables. Actually, people think of it as, oh, you put the little piece on the fish. And I think that's sort of like we've talked on the show before about how people put salt on their hand and then they lick it off before they shoot tequila, and then they have
Yeah.
a squeeze of lime. And you've told that story about how like you got in trouble at a party because you became everyone's bartender because they didn't know how to drink tequila. right?
No, they didn't know how to drink bad tequila.
I guess that's
Is what
true.
it turned out. That's what it actually turned out to be.
But so people don't know, like, I think a lot of people think, oh, this is just how you eat sushi. They don't necessarily think about it. However, you can use it for a lot of different things. You could just mix it into an aioli. If you took even prepared wasabi, right? The stuff in the tube, you don't have to get the real stuff if you don't want to, but you can use it sort of if you think like, when might I have used mustard, for example, which is another spicy plant. It is a member of the mustard family, by the way. They are related. So
Yeah.
if you think could mustard be good with this? Now just try wasabi. So I said, mix it into an aioli, right? First of all, your aioli will be great, bright green. So that's pretty cool. But it could go great on like just fries. Just dip your fries in a little wasabi aioli. That would be delicious. Steak, mustard sauce is a really popular thing, right? Mustard and wine or mustard and butter, like folding that into a sauce. You could add wasabi. You get the color, you get this really nice flavor, especially if you wanted to do sort of like a French/Japanese fusion kind of dish. That would be really great. Throwing small amounts to a vinaigrette. Maybe you're going to make a Asian style salad, whatever that means to you, but you could throw it in there, shake it up, and now your dressing is going to have a little bit of a kick to it because of the wasabi. I've heard people doing it into mashed potatoes. A big old bowl of wasabi mashed potatoes is a little too much for me. But
well, people do it with garlic. I like to more sometimes, and garlic mashed potatoes is a big thing at some steakhouse restaurants. So it might be worth a try.
Yeah, it could definitely be worth a try. What I have had and have enjoyed is wasabi folded into mashed potatoes, and then you take the mashed potatoes and you roll them into little balls called croquettes. You bread those and then you fry those. So you have little spicy mashed potato balls, as opposed to if I was sitting down and someone told me they love mashed potatoes, and I've said so many times how much I love mashed potatoes, I would, if it was bright green and all of it was spicy, no. The mashed potato is a butter and garlic delivery device. I didn't need it full of wasabi.
Would you put wasabi in a cocktail at all?
Of course, I would put anything in a cocktail. Anybody familiar with apothecary at all knows I will put anything legally available and edible into a cocktail at least once. But I would use it very carefully because you don't want the Fran Dresser effect to happen to your average day guest.
It's Mustard Day on Flavorphiles.
We have an excellent guest joining us, a curator from a museum that both of us have been to. We thought it was great. We're excited to have the owner, the curator of the National Mustard Museum, Barry Levenson. Welcome to Flavorphiles.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think the number one question everybody's going to ask, right, is how does someone decide to start a mustard museum? Where does the idea come from? What gives you the inspiration to make this happen?
Well, the inspiration was the loss of the Red Sox in 1986. When they lost the World Series to the Mets, I was very depressed because I'm originally from Massachusetts. I've always been a Red Sox fan, still am. So when they lost in 1986, I was totally devastated. So I couldn't sleep. So I went to an all-night supermarket and roamed up and down the aisles, tears running down my cheeks. And I said, I need a hobby. and I just have to collect something. So when I was in front of the mustards, I heard this voice that said, if you collect us, they will come. I did. They have. We now have over 70, about 7,200 different mustards from all over the world, all 50 states, about 85 different countries. Now, do some of your listeners use ketchup on hot dogs?
Well, we've had very strong discussions about that because we've also lived in Chicago, Barry, where they say that ketchup doesn't belong on hot dogs. Tanner doesn't like ketchup. So, and I don't put them on hot dogs either. Mustard, yes. Ketchup, no.
Good. Because
the test.
I don't know if you know, according to the National Condiment Research Council annual report, ketchup is now the leading cause of childhood stupidity in America. Just saying.
Okay, young parents, pay attention.
That's right.
But it must have taken a while from you to go from a counter or shelvings full of mustard to the point where you said, I have enough here to start a museum.
Yeah, it was 1992 that I quit my job as an assistant attorney general for the state of Wisconsin. In fact, in 1987, I argued a case at the U.S. Supreme Court with a jar of mustard in my pocket. I won. It was probably a good luck charm.
Well, that's a pretty good job to quit to go open a mustard museum.
Yeah, everyone thought I was nuts.
Has that changed?
No.
Do they believe in you now?
No, I'm still nuts. Now, the museum itself is a nonprofit organization. We're separate from the gift shop because you probably saw the gift shop upstairs. The museum itself is downstairs. And we have, like I said, about 7,200 different mustards from all over the world. And we have redesigned the museum. So there's also a Dijon exhibit.
What makes a great mustard, Barry?
Wow. That's a difficult question because there's got to be mustard seed in it. Now, they could be ground. They could be flavorful. So we have something called the Worldwide Mustard Competition every year, where we invite mustards from all over the world to come to to send them mustard makers, because mustard is not a one-dimensional condiment. There are 18 categories, so there could be honey mustards, Dijon mustards, fruit mustards, garlic mustards, all kinds. And every year there is a grand champion. This year it was a Dijon mustard from France.
Can you tell people, like, what does Dijon really mean? I think people see that kind of on the front of a mustard label, but it doesn't mean anything to them.
Well, Dijon mustards are originally from Dijon, France. Now, unfortunately, there are mustards, because Dijon mustards could be from the U.S., but they're not real Dijon mustards.
I have a friend. His name is Zane Kaplansky. Have you ever heard of his mustards?
Oh, sure. I know Zane. I've talked to him, and he's sent mustards to the mustard competition. He's up in Canada.
Yep. He had a deli here in Toronto, and he's now out in Tofino, BC, but he's still doing the mustard.
What is something you think people misunderstand about mustard when they come to the museum, and it just, what are some misconceptions you just feel you're always fighting against?
Well, I think the misconception is that mustard has to be hot, because it doesn't. Because honey mustards, there's a category of mild mustards.
Okay, you can't say you don't like mustard until Barry has fed you 7,200 different mustards.
Well, just about.
Are there any really out there mustards where you thought this sounded crazy, but it was delicious?
Oh, yeah. There are many mustards like that. For example, there's a nettle mustard made with young nettles.
Any mustards people should stop making that they've sent them to the museum and you thought, no, even Barry can't eat this kind of mustard?
Well, a lot of people say, what about yellow mustard? And I love yellow mustard. It has its place. When you go to the ballpark, there's nothing like a hot dog with a squiggle of yellow mustard. When you hold it up, gorgeous.
Are you a fan of Dollar Dog Night at the ballpark?
Oh, yeah. Always. But with mustard only.
No relish?
Well, sometimes I do have relish as well as mustard.
Yeah, no ketchup.
No ketchup, ever.
All right. Okay, so at the risk of offending you here, since this whole thing began with your heartbreak over the Boston Red Sox loss, Will you be upset with me if I say go Blue Jays?
Go ahead. Go ahead. So
Yeah, it's not our biggest year. Okay. So tell us, for anybody who really is encouraged, if they happen to be in Wisconsin, where do they find the Mustard Museum?
well, it's in Middleton, Wisconsin, which is just outside of Madison. Middleton is just west of Madison. So we're open 7 days a week, 10 to 5.
Barry Levenson of the Mustard Museum in Wisconsin. Great of you to spend time. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you. And Jerry and Tanner, hasta la mustard. We also have, we're also the home of America's Mustard College. It's called Poop on You.
I wish I had. I'll have to come by and see if I can get a degree.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
I will send you one. DDS, Doctor of Diddly Squat.
That's Barry Levenson of the Mustard Museum.
As we wrap up our episode on mustard and other spicy condiments, of course, we have to talk about pepper. I think a lot of people think pepper is just one thing. You just have black pepper and maybe it's coarse, or maybe you've heard of a type of black pepper like a telly cherry, but you think pepper is pepper. Why do we have to talk about it for 10 minutes? Because there's so many types of peppers. And I don't mean bell peppers. I don't mean jalapenos. I mean actual like peppercorn. What do you think of peppercorn? So what we have done is I have picked out some of my favorite non-black pepper peppercorns, and we have shipped them to Dad, ground them fresh, and he's going to try them for the very first time, all of these new to him types of peppers. So we're going to try them along with you. So
All right.
just to say, I want you to be able to say, okay, like, how is this pepper? Do you like the flavor? How is it different than black pepper? Kind of what's going on there to help all the people who unfortunately don't have the Flavorphiles pepper pack readily available to them.
Okay, here's what I did. There's 6 of them, but that includes black pepper because we're using that as the baseline, right? And
Right.
so I ground each of these peppers into basically a styrofoam cup, okay? And this is the black. So why don't I just taste this? I know what it tastes like, but I just want my palate to start off with the familiar, right?
Exactly. And
Okay.
and tasting something you know what it tastes like before you taste other things is really important. There's a very famous chef who keeps craft singles. I won't call him out for it, but he has several Michelin stars. And before his staff goes through and tastes every night, they have to eat a piece of craft singles because everybody knows what it tastes like. It always tastes the same, and it gets your palate ready to taste things going forward. So the black
All right.
peppercorn.
Well, I had that, and it tastes like black pepper. And if you don't know what black pepper is, the rest of the segment is going to be useless to you. Well, because when anybody looks at a restaurant or at a menu, or anybody's in a restaurant, salt and pepper. Well, you reach for the salt, which is salt, and then the pepper, and it's always black pepper. And at home, whether you're grinding it or out of a shaker or whatever you're doing, it's black pepper, isn't it?
Well, there's black pepper. Now, there are where it comes from, and the quality of the
Okay.
peppercorn can be different. So, sort of just like grapes can be this way, right? That's why why is there so much to talk about with wine? Because grapes grow differently. There's different varieties of grapes, and where they come from makes a difference. And pepper's that way too. And who knows? Maybe pepper's going to get its glow up, and people will start wanting to buy single origin peppers. But that's not occurring so far. We're just trying to get them to try different types of pepper to begin with.
All
But
right.
yeah, black pepper, it's warm, it's got a little bit of a bite, it's pepper.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so next on our list is green pepper. Now, going forward here, I have never had any of these peppers, I don't think, except maybe the pink pepper in something. But all right, so this is my first experience here. I'm just getting it on the end of my finger out of this grind that I did.
If you're watching this on YouTube, it's very elegant.
It's very elegant the way I'm doing it. I couldn't figure out how else to do it. I'm not taking a spoonful of this stuff.
Right.
It seems a little bit milder to me.
So green peppercorns are unripe peppercorns. So
All
if you
right.
think about a fruit, it doesn't have the full flavor that it might if it were, if you allowed it to ripen, right? You're having unripe peppercorns. That's why they're still green.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but it had a very similar kind of flavor, so that makes sense.
Well, what I would say about green peppercorn, if you're finding them, they're a little bit more vegetal. They're a little bit more similar to capers. Lots of times when you get them, actually, people are brining them. You have gotten some that have been dried and ground, like into pepper.
Right.
But probably the most popular way to use green peppercorns, if you've ever had like a steak au poivre, lots of times a peppercorn sauce with steak meaning like of pepper. Sometimes you're making that, oh, it's black pepper. But you can also have peppercorn sauces where they use the brined green peppers, they soak them, and then you pour that into the sauce. And so you kind of get these crunchy, not as spicy peppercorns with sort of a flavorful vegetal kind of flavor. So that's how you might see green peppercorns going forward as a listener.
White pepper. What do I know about that before I try it?
Okay, so the white pepper is a black peppercorn. However, it's been the way that they're harvesting it is separating the black from the white. So you get white pepper where you get pepper flavor, but it doesn't have any black coloration to it. So go ahead and try.
All right. It doesn't have as much bite, it doesn't seem to me,
Right.
as a black pepper.
How does it smell?
It does smell a little different.
Yeah. So sometimes people, unfortunately, what they describe it as is like barnyard or used sock.
Wait a minute. Let me try again. I don't want to describe it that way. It's a food product.
Yeah, so white pepper, it certainly has like a little bit like funkier, earthier kind of flavor. It does have some spice. It's not as spicy as black. The most popular use for white pepper actually is fish cooking because fish is white, right?
Yeah.
And when if you have this beautiful piece of fish that you gently poached in butter or where you steamed it, something where you really want to preserve the integrity and the beauty of the fish, and then you're going to serve it to somebody in an expensive restaurant, you want it to look perfect and pristine. And so when you cover it with black flecks, it starts to look like either it got burned or worse, it got dirty because you see just some black on it. Blackened fish is a completely different thing.
Yeah, that's different.
But white pepper is a way for you to add pepper to fish. Scallops is another great place without seeing pepper. So you can have the flavor, but still keep it aesthetically clean.
All right. Next on the list here is Brazilian pink.
So the pink peppercorn. I think I am the number one buyer of pink peppercorns in the state of Texas.
All right.
We blow through them at my restaurant.
All right.
So how do they taste?
Well, I'm about to find out. I expected more of kind of a chili pepper hit, and that's probably just because of the color.
Right.
It's actually much milder than I expected. It has a peppery taste to it, but there's probably more of a hit from the black pepper.
So what's really funny about the pink peppercorn is we've talked about green and white being still the same thing as the black peppercorn, just different elements of it. The pink peppercorn is not a peppercorn. It's actually related to the cashew. So some people who are allergic to cashews are also allergic to pink peppercorns.
Oh.
Right. And the cashew obviously is pretty far away from a black peppercorn. So what's funny about these is it has like a more perfumey kind of taste. And I don't want to say perfumey and then like turn you off to it. At my restaurant, we make a cacio e pepe, but we use pink peppercorns instead of black peppercorns because we get this slightly floral flavor. We get more of a warming heat than like that bite that the black peppercorn is going to give you. So anytime you're combining peppercorn with cream, with fruit, with, it goes great with fish. It goes great with chocolate. It's a way to introduce sort of like this floral slight spice without giving you just black pepper, which can just be a bit aggressive with some of those softer things.
Well, if I'm in Dallas for any number of days, I always have that cacio e pepe with the pink peppercorns, and I really like it.
It's great. It's sort of a hallmark of ours. The long pepper, and this is one. Can you hold up like a long pepper for anybody who's watching?
It looks more like a pod.
Yeah. It looks like a pod. And I only started using these when I would make mulled wine for our Christmas menus. So it's an interesting relative of the black pepper, but like you said, it's more of a pod than a round peppercorn. So how does it taste?
All right, so let's just find out. It was harder to do in the grinder. I should have broken the pods up, and then maybe they would have ground easier. But I got enough for the experiment here. Oh, that has a more floral kind of taste to it.
Yeah, how about like baking spices, like cinnamon,
like-
ginger?
Oh, yeah, I can see why you do this in mulled wine. I'm wanting to do that now.
Yeah, long pepper is a secret to mulled wine because it does give you a pepperiness, but it also sort of gives you this baking spiciness. It sort of rounds off these flavors. It has so much more character than just black pepper can. It's an amazing product.
You just throw the whole thing in there like you would do with a cinnamon stick or something.
Exactly. Just like a cinnamon stick or a bay leaf or something, you just toss it in and let it cook. It's the secret to mulled wine. So keep that in mind as we head into mulled wine season.
All right. Okay, now, Sichuan, we left this to the last for a reason.
Do you know the reason?
It's probably going to burn me.
Okay, well, why don't you try and find out?
Yeah, why don't I do that?
Yeah, why don't you do that? So the Sichuan peppercorn...
Well, first of all, I would like to point out that there are several, there are different colors here. There's black and white, and it's I don't know. It doesn't look like pepper when you grind it has a universal kind of look to it. Here we go.
Right, it's a little bit more varied. Sichuan peppercorns, again, not the same, not a peppery, not a peppercorn actually, but it's a lot more aromatic. It's sort of like citrusy. It's really popular in Sichuan style cooking. That's how it gets its name. So how does the flavor?
I don't know. There's a sourness to it. Is that, I don't know if that makes sense to you.
That's the That's the citrus. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. What would I put this in?
Well, the biggest thing that Sichuan peppercorns are known is they're going to start to create a numbing sensation.
Yeah, I'm noticing that.
So your tongue starts to feel really weird. That's why you had to try it last. But your tongue is going to feel weird. It numbs your tongue. But that effect goes really great. I love pink peppercorns, or I love Sichuan peppercorns and beef especially. But I love it not just because it's fun to play tricks on your friends or your dads, but it is also a really flavorful ingredient that you should check out.
Okie doke. Yeah, there's a bit of a hit that comes afterward, I've noticed. But that's our episode on condiments. Happy Mustard Day, by the way. And find all of our episodes at flavorphiles.com. That's Philes. Thanks for joining.